That's right! Welcome to the side of the ring because it's time for Ringside. Got a bunch of news lined up for you, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, we're just gonna CJ Perry gave a statement to TMZ Sports for their story on her and Miro breaking up. Quote, Miro and I have made the difficult decision to separate after many wonderful years together and have decided to move on as friends and hopefully on-screen characters somewhere down the road. TMZ noted that despite Perry's confirmation of the couple's split, neither of the AEW stars has filed for divorce yet. Obviously, a bit sad to hear, right? But I think the main takeaway from this is that these two individuals who at one point did love each other said, you know what, this relationship isn't working out anymore and we are going to respectfully split off from one another, and it wasn't messy, there weren't any arguments, there's no drama, they both just mutually agreed to part ways and carry on with their, lives independently of one another, which I completely respect. Perfectly fine that that's happening. If you were a Miro Perry stan, sad day for you, right? But all in all, I'm just happy that this isn't resulting in a storyline, at least not yet. I'm happy that there's no arguments, nobody's throwing any type of allegations around, at least not yet. It's just purely just, hey, we're not here anymore. Oh well, not really much to say. This happens. This is no different from, Joe and Betty down the street, Carl and Miriam, right? So, all in all, obviously very sad, but it happens, and the good news is that it's not messy, and they're moving on. Sticking with AEW, Pro Wrestling Observer newsletter, Sammy Guevara's AEW suspension was handed down by the disciplinary committee for not ending his match with Jeff Hardy immediately after Hardy was evaluated for a head injury and for using his GTH finisher, which involved a work knee to the head, despite concern at the time that Hardy could have a concussion. The Wrestling Observer newsletter's Dave Meltzer added that Guevara has his defenders backstage who say the issues with the finish of the Hardy match were the result of miscommunication between all involved. It doesn't matter who miscommunicated. The point is, Jeff Hardy got injured, and okay, well, I see the argument. Guevara didn't know, and I feel like maybe the ref should have jumped in, right? Now, this happened weeks ago, okay? So, I don't remember what, I think it was Sammy Guevara. He hit like a moonsault, and his knee came down. He came down a bit hard on Jeff, and then he got Jeff up and finished the match, and I think Jeff is still out, and Guevara got suspended a little bit later. I don't think he got suspended like right away. I remember him getting suspended like a little bit later on. That's why I was like, oh, okay. I mean, look, I don't want to say, Hardy's okay, like he's not, but like the situation was handled, and Hardy is being looked at, and Guevara got suspended, so it's not like Guevara got away with it, right? So to now come about of the woodwork and be like, well, he didn't do this, and okay, but I was it feels a bit redundant to just sort of run around and be like, well, it was because of this, or maybe it was because of that, and it's like, look, the point is, Hardy got injured, and he's being looked at now. That's at least my main concern is, well, how soon did he get looked at after he got injured? And I assume it was like pretty much after the match was over. It wasn't like a week or a day or anything. Like, it was pretty much on the same exact day. And that's really all I'm concerned about. The miscommunication thing, listen, I'm not saying that there was no miscommunication. I'm just like, it doesn't make sense to yell about it now. It just doesn't make any sense, I don't know. I don't want to take away the severity of the situation or anything, because it is severe. And to still, work with someone who clearly is out of sorts. I mean, we're not in that era anymore, so we don't have to do that type of stuff anymore, right? So, I don't know. I don't really know what else to say. He's being looked at, and he's suspended, so we're done. We don't have to talk about this anymore. At least that's what I feel. Miscommunication thing doesn't matter. Still got hurt. Doesn't matter who miscommunicated. If anything, the least, the last person's fault it is Jeff Hardy, because he didn't know that was going to happen. So really, it falls on Guevara and the ref for not communicating with one another. The ref being like, hey, he's hurt, and Guevara being like, okay, I'll send it home now. So that's just my opinion. Finally, Finally, Tony Khan believes Kazuchika Okada, quote, can be a major heel star on American wrestling TV and made the decision to debut Okada as a heel with the Young Bucks before the former NJPW star even signed with the company. That according to a Fightful Select report that also says AEW considers the elite segments on Dynamite in Collision last week to have been, quote, a home run. Sports Illustrated's recent story on Okada's arrival in AEW also says his heel debut was Tony Khan's idea and that Khan, the Bucks, Omega, and Okada, quote, all agreed that his run in AEW should start as a villain. Where should it end, though? Listen, I don't deny that the first one that he did on Dynamite was great, right? Swerve, knocked out Eddie. Second one was great. Pac returned, sets up a match. Brilliant, all right? Love it. My biggest worry, I can't stop being concerned that 3 years, first of all, is not enough. I'm just gonna, listen, do whatever you want to me, okay? Burn me at the stake. I don't care. 3 years does not seem like a lot of time for Kazuchika Okada. 5 years would have been perfectly fine for me. $13.5 million. He better have an actually meaningful title. No offense to Eddie Kingston. No offense to the Continental Crown Championship. TNT, right? To be fair, there's not really any other title that he can hold right now, aside from the TNT and the World Championship, right? The only other thing I can think of is the Continental Crown, which, assuming that's why he's going after it, which on one hand is like, okay, right? But on the other hand, it's like, oh, well, we can't give him, which I already talked about this, right? So I guess my just main takeaway from this is like, I'm not mad that he's a villain. I'm not upset about that. I guess I'm just like, I'm a little bit worried that we're blowing our stack just a little bit too early. And then once this storyline is done, what are we going to do after this is over, right? Is this story going to go on for 3 years? Which I don't deny. They've been able to do that before, but with like a couple seeds planted here and there. Like this isn't a completely 100% ongoing storyline. It's just a storyline that just so happens to be able to connect back to itself, if you really, pull the thread long enough, right? So, I don't know. I don't deny that Okada is going to do well. That's my whole takeaway from this. I'm just a bit worried of how this is going to go. It seems all good, right? Seems fine now, but I want to see what's going to happen to Okada like a year and a half in, right? What happens when we start getting used to Okada being on the roster? What storylines will they have for him after that instead of just constantly trying to get everybody to be like, hey, Okada's here, wow, this is really special. What happens when that wears off, when the novelty wears off and Okada, becomes another guy on the roster? You know what I mean? Like, what are we gonna do? Well, what are they gonna do about that when that time comes around, right? Am I reading too much into this? I potentially might be, but I'm just going off the top of my head and I'm perfectly fine with the apprehension and the anxiety and the worry that I have because keeping me on my toes. I'm being a little bit more observant to what's going on with the storyline and everything. So at the end of the day, Okada's doing fine. The storyline's starting out perfectly fine. If he has to beat Kingston, then fine. I just don't want Kingston to just sort of fade into obscurity after this. That's just my main worry. So all in all, we're just gonna wait and see how this turns out. Okay, right now it's okay, but I want to see how this turns out. What are we talking about? CJ Perry and Miro have split up. Listen, again, sad day. Can't really say anything though. They're individuals. They're grown-ups, right? They're allowed to make whatever decision they want. If they don't want to be together anymore, they don't have to be together anymore. Checking on the reports of WWE adding Brock Lesnar back to their active roster page, some say he'd been moved to the alumni section after being implicated in the Vince McMahon sex trafficking lawsuit. Others claim he was never moved. SA Scoop sources say the creative team, quote, has not heard anything new about Lesnar. So there's literally not much to say. So I still don't know if he was put on the roster page on purpose. I don't know if they were doing it preemptively. I genuinely have no idea. I don't know what else to add. Okay. Because Hardy can't be like, hey, his knees are about to fall on me, or he's about to come down on me a little bit too hard, and I'm going to be knocked for a loop. Let me just get up from my prone position and walk over to him while he's on the turnbuckle in front of him. We go, hey, you're about to mess that up, so thanks, just letting you know, and then lay back. He doesn't know. This is not really Sammy's fault because Sammy didn't know either. Listen. I would, if it has to be anyone's fault, I would say it's the ref and Sammy's fault. Because the ref should have been like, hey, Hardy's not looking alert. Hardy's not looking too good, right? You should probably stop. And Guevara should have been, unless, I don't know. Because, I doubt you're noticing anything like that in the heat of the moment. I doubt it. So, right, like, I don't really know what you want me to say. That's what I'm saying. The ref really should have been the one to, like, keep an eye on everything. And then he should have told Sammy, and Sammy should have been like, okay, you're right. So... again, last person's fault is Hardy, and it falls on the ref and Guevara. So, Okada can be a major heel in American Wrestling TV. I don't deny that, right? They wanted to be heel. Got to be heel Okada. I'm okay with that. Without just completely repeating myself again, I have a lot of expectations for this. I do. Just to sum it all up, I have a lot of expectations for Okada and how the storyline is going to go and what's going to happen after. Because that is also a very important factor to think about, is what is going to happen after this storyline is over, right? Because it's either going to end or it's going to go on for way too long and people are going to want it to end anyway. So I have a lot of expectations for what they've got in store for Okada and how they're going to handle him as a villain and if they're going to turn him and what type of title they're going to give him and how long is he going to have it, because someone's got to take it off of him. He can't just die with it. So who's going to take it from him, you know? So there's a lot of seeds being planted and stuff being built. So I have a lot of expectations for how this is going to turn out. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode. Hopefully everybody has a wonderful tonight and a wonderful tomorrow. And as always, big hugs! Big hugs all around.